They whisper your name like it's a sin, like saying it aloud might awaken a storm they're not ready to weather. Spirit warrior, your presence alone is a disruption to the status quo, and not because you seek attention, but because your light exposes what others work hard to keep hidden. The reason your name carries such spiritual gravity is rooted in a deeper truth. Energy doesn't lie. In spiritual psychology, it's known that highly awakened individuals emit frequencies that unsettle the unhealed. That's why when you walk into a room, tension rises and conversations falter. There's an ancient resonance in your aura, something holy, something set apart. Even scripture speaks of this in Isaiah 61. Sense summons asterisk everything you carry, divine purpose, heavenly backing, and a power that refuses to be controlled. You are the storm cloaked in calm, the mirror people avoid, the prophecy that cannot be stopped. Point 1, you walk with unseen power. Let's get one thing clear. People aren't shaking in their boots because of your looks, your job title, or even the words that come out of your mouth. They fear something much deeper, something they can't quite put their finger on. They fear what they feel when you're around. And that feeling, it's not intimidation in the worldly sense, it's spiritual conviction, it's exposure, it's raw truth, wrapped in the calm, collected energy you radiate. You could walk into a room and say absolutely nothing, but the air shifts. Suddenly folks get nervous. Words start to fumble. Laughter turns forced. Eyes dart around searching for exits. Why? Because your energy announces, I see what you're hiding, without you having to utter a single syllable. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about trying to be mysterious or powerful. It's spiritual authority, and it's real. In fact, research in psychology backs up the idea that people can feel energy and intention. According to a study published in the journal Psychological Science, humans are incredibly sensitive to the nonverbal cues of those around them. We subconsciously pick up on body language, tone, and even micro-expressions. And in your case, what they're picking up on is divine alignment. It's unsettling to those who are out of alignment themselves. Your silence, it holds weight. It speaks volumes. In a world where everyone is trying to out-talk each other, your stillness makes the loudest statement. Your calm demeanor in the face of chaos is more than just personality. It's the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. Philippians 4:7. People can't explain it, so they fear it. They don't know why being around you makes them feel like they're being watched by something higher, something holy. But deep down they know they're not just in your presence, they're in the presence of truth. Even when you're going through your darkest valleys, when you don't feel strong, when you're questioning everything, there's still a power that clings to you. And that power? It exposes pretenders. It shakes the fake. It makes manipulators trip over their own games because they realize you're not someone who can be deceived. Your discernment makes people rethink their motives. Your spirit holds up a mirror to theirs, and not everyone likes what they see. That's why they fear your name, not because you're out here swinging your achievements or shouting your truth from the rooftops, but because your presence alone carries a message. I'm walking with something greater than myself. Your name has become more than a label. It's become a symbol. It represents resilience, wisdom, light. And most of all, it represents a force of purpose that cannot be manipulated, controlled, or extinguished. And honey, that light, it's loud. It doesn't ask for permission to shine. It doesn't apologize for the way it makes shadows squirm. It just is. Because when you're walking in alignment with God, you don't need to prove your power. You are the power. But here's the kicker. Don't get bitter. Get better. It's tempting to want to rub it in, to throw a little spiritual shade and say, I told you so. But that's not your assignment. See, God doesn't just elevate you to silence your enemies. He elevates you to teach them something. Sometimes you are the lesson. Your glow is the sermon. Your success is the clapback. So let them sit in their confusion, their regret, their what could have beens. Let them wrestle with the fact that you knew the whole time about their intentions, their games, their fear, and you chose to rise anyway. At the end of the day, the power you carry isn't yours to flex, it's God's. And when God puts that kind of light in you, it's not just to illuminate your path, but to expose the darkness in others. You're not just a person walking through life, you're a force, a mirror, a movement. That's why your silence shakes rooms and your presence rewrites atmospheres. They don't fear you, they fear the truth you make them feel. Point 2, You don't play the game, you change it. You're not part of the system, and that's not just a statement, it's a quiet revolution. While others scramble to fit in, adapt their voices to the dominant crowd, and shuffle their souls for temporary approval, you stand apart, unbothered, unbent, and untouched by the performance. You don't kiss up to power, fake smiles in boardrooms, or whisper in back corners to gain favor. You don't play the game because deep down you know the game was rigged from the start. Gossip doesn't interest you, clicks don't impress you, and popularity points. Please, you don't need applause to know your worth, and that, my friend, terrifies them. Why? Because your existence, unapologetically authentic, quietly confident, deeply grounded, disrupts the entire social software. You're the glitch in the matrix, the part that doesn't compute, the one anomaly in a world trained to follow scripts. While everyone else is auditioning for roles in someone else's play, you're living your own unscripted life. You show up not to compete, but to be. And that kind of truth is electric. When you walk into a room and don't seek approval, it sends a silent shockwave. People sense it. It rattles the foundations of artificial relationships and unwritten social contracts. They look at you and see someone they can't label, can't buy, and can't manipulate. You've rejected the programming. You're the one who asks why when others obey. You're the one who says no when conformity demands a yes. And that's why people try to erase you, discredit you, and twist your name into something less threatening. It's not because you did something wrong, it's because you didn't fall in line. Systems thrive on predictability, on obedience. When you remove yourself from the equation, you challenge the very necessity of that system. You prove it's possible to live and thrive outside the approval economy. This kind of sovereignty, this mental and emotional freedom, exposes the pettiness of their politics. Suddenly their power plays, gossip circles, and popularity ladders seem childish, because they are. And you're the mirror that makes that obvious. Interestingly, this kind of independence doesn't require a megaphone. You don't have to scream to be heard. You speak with your actions. You dismantle manipulation with boundaries. You destroy illusions with integrity. You challenge oppression with presence. You don't rage, you radiate. And that glow, that's what burns the eyes of those still trapped in the game. Because deep down, many of them wish they had the courage to do what you've done, to walk away from the false comfort of conformity and choose the uncertain path of truth. Psychologically speaking, human beings are wired for tribal belonging. The brain perceives social rejection similarly to physical pain. That's why the system thrives on pressure to conform, because it taps into primal fear. But here's the kicker. People like you, the glitches, have trained your minds to transcend that. You've learned to be okay standing alone, knowing that authenticity is far more nourishing than fake connection. That's rare and powerful. And while the world may not always reward that immediately, the ripple effect is real. You plant seeds of possibility in others, people notice, and some will try to silence you, but others, they'll be inspired, they'll question, they'll wake up. Because in a world full of copy-paste identities, someone living their truth is a revolution in motion. So when they whisper about you, when they call you difficult, too much, too quiet, too intense, or hard to figure out, smile. That means the system couldn't figure out your programming. That means you've succeeded. Not in their game, but in building a life that's real, free, and powerfully your own. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to reveal what no one else had the courage to see. You're not a glitch. You're the update the system wasn't ready for. Point 3, your wins aren't normal, they're divine. Let's be real. You didn't just survive the storm, you learned to dance in the downpour. You've come out of situations most people wouldn't have even made it through. Pain that would have broken others became the very pressure that produced your diamond-like resilience. While some folks got lost in the chaos, you came out glowing, literally and spiritually. It's not that you didn't cry, suffer, or feel the weight of it all. You did. But you walked out of it shining with what can only be described as glow-in-the-dark grace, that unshakable peace and radiance that shines even in the darkest seasons. And here's what sets you apart. Your glow-up wasn't fueled by sleepless nights grinding yourself into burnout. It wasn't built on the shallow applause of others or the need to prove someone wrong. No, your glow-up came from something deeper, divine alignment. You shifted your focus from pleasing people to pleasing purpose, from survival mode to spiritual mode. And once you got aligned, mind, body, and spirit, God's favor started showing up in ways that couldn't be explained by logic or luck. Promotions, breakthroughs, ideas, healing, peace, it all started flowing when you stopped chasing and started listening. So what happens next? You'd think the people around you would clap for you, right? That they'd be happy to see you winning, especially after everything you've been through, but instead they start whispering. You hear them say, she's changed, or he got lucky. Suddenly you're too confident, too calm, too blessed for their comfort. Some folks are allergic to your healing because it reminds them they're still wounded. Some people throw shade, not because of your flaws, but because your light reveals what they're not willing to fix in themselves. Let's pause here and get educational. Psychologically, this behavior stems from insecurity and projection. According to social comparison theory, when people feel threatened by someone else's success, especially when that success is hard to explain, they cope by diminishing it. So they whisper, they gossip, they look for any way to discredit your growth because it challenges their comfort zone. It's not really you they hate, it's what your life now represents. Proof that favor is real, that alignment works, and that maybe they could have had it too if they had done the inner work. But here's the truth that keeps you grounded. God's favor is not a popularity contest. It's not about being liked. It's about being chosen. And when you're chosen, there's a supernatural glow to your life that you don't have to explain, shrink, or apologize for. It speaks louder than your words ever could. That's why people are puzzled. They can't understand how you went from overlooked to undeniable, from barely making it to walking in abundance. What they don't see is that while they were watching your fall, God was preparing your rise. And now, you're rising in front of the very ones who expected to bury you. But don't get bitter, get better. Let their confusion be your confirmation. Let their regret be your reminder that obedience pays off. Because here's the plot twist. Even your enemies became part of your training. They were used to refine you, not define you. God didn't just bless you despite them, He used them. They were the sandpaper for your shine, the catalyst for your calling. So keep rising, keep glowing, keep showing up with grace that doesn't make sense. Let them talk, let them wonder. Just know this, when God is for you, no whisper, no weapon, and no shade can stand against you. And that glow, it's not just pretty, it's proof. Point 4, you've mastered the art of distance. You've come to realize something most people take years, sometimes decades, to understand. Not everyone deserves access to your peace. That sacred, hard-earned tranquility you built through late nights of soul work, silent battles, and deep healing, that inner stillness that keeps you sane and grounded in a chaotic world, yeah, that peace is priceless. And once you discover how powerful it is, you start guarding it like treasure. That means not everyone gets a front row seat to your energy, your emotions, or your time. In fact, most don't even get standing room in the back anymore. So now, you move differently. You move in silence. Not because you're hiding, but because you've learned that growth doesn't need an announcement. You don't respond to every insult, every bait, every low vibrational attempt to rattle you. Why? Because you're not at war with people. You're at peace with yourself. That kind of restraint, that type of emotional self-control is a rare form of power. It shows you're not thirsty for validation, applause, or approval. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone, especially not to folks who've already decided they won't understand you no matter what you say. Psychologists call this emotional detachment with awareness, a skill that emotionally intelligent people develop over time. It's the ability to stay grounded and protect your well-being while observing the chaos around you without being consumed by it. It's not being cold, it's being wise. You're not isolating out of fear, you're creating space with intention. You've learned that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It gives you room to listen, to think clearly, and to move deliberately. And when you do speak or take action, it hits differently. There's no wasted motion with you anymore. Everything has purpose. Your quietness, that's not timidity. It's timing, it's planning, it's discernment. People who can't figure you out get nervous. Why? Because unpredictability unsettles the manipulative. They can't read you. They can't track you. You've stopped giving them the script to your life. While others are broadcasting their every move like a reality show, you've gone private. And in doing so, you've become powerful. Because power doesn't beg, it doesn't scream, it whispers and still commands attention. You've also learned that distance is a form of discernment. You don't ghost people out of pettiness. You remove yourself out of preservation. You're not being rude, you're being responsible. The energy you keep around you determines the clarity of your mind, and you're done compromising your clarity for chaos. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters, and yours impeccable. And let's not ignore what happens when you do pop out, because when you do, it's not random, it's not for show, it's intentional. You've been working in silence, growing in the dark, and healing behind closed doors, so when you re-emerge, it's with impact. People notice, they feel the shift. They can't quite put their finger on it, but they know you're not the same. That's because you're not. You've evolved, you've refined. You've outgrown the noise. In fact, your presence becomes even more magnetic precisely because it's rare. Just like a limited edition drop or a once-in-a-lifetime comet, your appearance signals value. And unlike those who constantly overshare and over-explain, you've mastered the art of being seen only when it matters. That alone earns respect, even from those who once underestimated you. So yes, stay low, stay focused, protect your peace like the kingdom it is. And remember this, loud people chase attention, but powerful people attract it. Your silence? It's not empty, it's loaded, and when do you move? The world watches, even if they act like they're not. Keep making quiet moves with loud results. Point 5. Your pain birthed purpose. They thought your trauma would leave you broken, bitter, and maybe even permanently bruised, but oh, how wrong they were. Instead of shrinking under the weight of pain, you expanded. You didn't crumble, you transformed. Life threw its hardest punches and you stood there, maybe shaken, maybe scarred, but never surrendered. What they never realized is that your trauma was never the end of your story. It was the fire that refined you and the storm that taught you how to navigate with spirit instead of sight. While others saw it as your undoing, God saw it as the groundwork for your awakening. You've walked through betrayals that made your heart question everything. Friends turned foes, loved ones turned strangers, and truths were twisted into weapons. You faced seasons of isolation that felt like divine silence, where it seemed like everyone abandoned you and heaven had you on hold. But you weren't being punished, you were being preserved. You weren't being cast out, you were being called in. See, God hides his greatest warriors during their transformation. Just like the butterfly needs the cocoon, you needed that quiet chamber of pain to emerge with wings strong enough to fly through storms others wouldn't dare enter. And let's not forget the spiritual warfare, the strange dreams, the gut feelings, the constant pressure. People don't understand that being spiritually tuned in is not some new age gimmick. It's survival. Your discernment was sharpened in dark rooms, not in daylight. You learned how to sense energy, read unspoken motives, and hear the spiritual messages others ignored. That wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. And now? Now you can walk into a room and feel everything before anyone even says a word. That's not fear, that's spiritual intelligence. That's God whispering wisdom straight to your soul. So yes, they know your name now. They whisper it with caution. They bring it up behind closed doors, like it's too sacred or too dangerous to say out loud. But it's not your name alone they fear, it's what your name now represents. It's the strength you embody, the resilience you radiate, and the power you carry after having survived what was meant to destroy you. Your story walks into rooms before you do. People remember your breakdowns because now they're forced to watch your breakthroughs. They remember who betrayed you and how you never stooped. They remember who left you and how you still rose. They remember when you were down bad and now you're not only up, you're untouchable. That's the part that stings. Not because you became arrogant, but because you became aligned. You didn't just bounce back, you leveled up in silence, prayed in private, healed without applause, and moved like royalty in rooms that used to reject you. Now your name is armor, it carries weight, because it's forged in fire and sealed with grace. You're not just a survivor, you're a sign that God is still in the business of taking pain and recycling it into purpose. You're living proof that no weapon formed against you ever prospered, not because you're perfect, but because you're protected. And here's the thing, you don't even wish them harm. You don't need revenge. You don't chase claps or clapbacks, because when you're truly healed, truly whole, and truly elevated, you let God be the storyteller and the scorekeeper. You just keep showing up, stronger, wiser, more divine. Let them sit with their guilt, their regret, and their misjudgments. Let them feel the discomfort of realizing they misread you, mishandled you, and misunderstood your silence as weakness, because now, every time they hear your name, they remember a lesson. That pain doesn't break the chosen, it builds them. That storms don't drown warriors, they baptize them. And that you, the one they thought would fade quietly, turned your wounds into weapons, your scars into sacred symbols, and your past into prophecy. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not a victim, you're a vessel. And your name? It's not just remembered, it's revered. Point 6, your spirit exposes hidden enemies. Chosen one, let's break something down that most people don't understand, and frankly, not everyone can understand. You don't need to do much to make waves, just walk into a room, just exist. Your very presence speaks volumes. Not because you're loud or showy, but because your spirit is deeply rooted in something divine, something eternal. You walk in alignment with a calling that many feel but few honor. And that kind of power, it rattles the unseen. You ever notice how some people seem to dislike you before you even say a word? You've barely interacted, maybe exchanged polite smiles, yet you can feel that cold energy swirling in the air. That tension, that discomfort, it's not paranoia, it's perception. Your spirit is highly sensitive. You're not imagining things, you're discerning things. See, your soul is tuned to higher frequencies. You pick up on things others miss. You sniff out snakes before they even hiss. You don't need proof, because your intuition already clocked them. And the wild part, you don't even have to expose them. Your very presence makes their masks slip off like melting wax. This isn't arrogance, it's spiritual science. When someone carries divine light, it naturally exposes what's hiding in the shadows. You're not judging them, you're not attacking them. But the light within you makes people uncomfortable with their own darkness. They feel seen in a way that has nothing to do with your words and everything to do with your vibration. That's why people who barely know you develop instant envy or aggression. It's not personal, it's spiritual. And here's where it gets deep. Your reputation isn't just street level, it's spiritual realm level. There are conversations happening in rooms you've never even walked into. People mention your name with awe, fear, curiosity, or admiration. Not because of gossip, but because your energy has reached them. The spiritual world recognizes rank and your soul has status. Just like military forces respect hierarchy, so do spiritual entities. Your walk, your protection, your vision, it's all proof of your spiritual clearance. Why else would certain doors open effortlessly for you while others close painfully fast? It's not random, it's divine orchestration. God places you in positions where your light can do its job. Sometimes that means illuminating, sometimes that means confronting, and sometimes it means simply being. Your presence alone is often enough to shift the atmosphere. That's power. And oh, those enemies you never asked for, the ones that side-eyed you, spread lies, or tried to sabotage your peace, don't even trip. That was never about you. That was about what they sensed in you. You're a mirror, chosen one. You reflect what others try to hide. And when the God in you agitates the demons in them, don't get bitter, get better. Because every time they plot, they're just proving your purpose. Every time they fail to bring you down, your elevation gets more undeniable. Remember what Joseph said in Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. That's your story too. Your enemies aren't just obstacles. They're instruments. God even uses them to teach them a lesson. Let them sit with their regret while you rise higher. Let them wrestle with why they couldn't destroy someone who never fought them back with the same venom. Chosen one, your journey is not for the faint-hearted. You were built for divine assignments, not popularity contests. You don't seek revenge because your elevation is the revenge. You don't seek approval because your approval comes from above. You don't chase validation, you carry confirmation. So walk tall, speak when led, shine without shame. Because even when you're silent, your spirit speaks loudly in places your feet haven't touched yet. You're not just known, you're recognized. You're not just respected, you're ranked. Point 7, you're walking in divine authority, not ego. Let's get one thing straight, this reputation. It's not about ego, and it's definitely not about clout. It's about purpose. When people whisper your name, it's not because you posted the loudest, showed off the most, or played the popularity game. No, your name carries weight because it was assigned. You were chosen not as a showpiece, but as a vessel. An example, a breaker of cycles, a light in dark places. Your journey isn't about chasing applause, it's about fulfilling alignment. You don't seek attention, attention finds you. You don't beg for validation, your presence validates the truth. That's why you don't have to walk in shouting. You simply arrive and the atmosphere shifts. Eyes glance, voices lower, energy changes, and it's not just charisma, it's spiritual resonance. It's heaven walking in the room before you even speak a word. See, a reputation like this wasn't built on Instagram quotes or surface-level hustle. It was forged in fire, in seasons where no one clapped for you, in silence when you were still showing up with excellence while being overlooked, in warfare when your spirit was being attacked and your mind was tired, but you chose to walk with integrity anyway. In obedience when God said go left and everyone else was running right and you still listened. And here's the thing, people notice, even the ones who act like they don't. That hesitation when they say your name, that flinch, that awkward silence, that's not intimidation in the worldly sense, it's spiritual recognition. Whether they know it or not, something in them feels the weight of who you are. Your name doesn't echo because it's loud, it echoes because it's real, because it carries purpose, pain, resilience, and anointing. Let's be clear. This isn't about being better than anyone else. This is about being obedient to something bigger than yourself. It's about walking in divine confidence, knowing that your role on this earth was not a coincidence. And yes, not everyone will understand you. Some will mislabel your confidence as arrogance. Some will mistake your silence for weakness. Some will fear what they don't understand, but none of that changes the truth. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be used by something higher. So if your name makes people uncomfortable, let it. If your walk causes whispers, keep walking. You weren't built for comfort, you were built for calling. That reputation, it's not just a reflection of your past, it's a sign of your assignment. Wear it with humility, move with reverence, and never forget, heaven backs you. That's why your presence has power. Spirit warriors, chosen ones, don't shrink because your name scares people. Don't water down your light to make others comfortable. They fear you because you walk with God, because your silence thunders, because your wounds became weapons of truth. And the next time they whisper your name like it's taboo, smile, because heaven shouts it like a victory song. Stay awake, stay grounded, stay chosen, because what you carry can't be spoken lightly.